Hello and welcome to day 2 of the basement footings. For day 1, click here. For the music, I'm going to just use the Tico Tico that I used last time because I'm too tired to find something else. So work started by setting up the laser, and then they added a whole bunch of extra stakes. Even in the time lapse you can see I'm kind of standing around without much to do at this point, which I didn't like. So when they brought down that power tamper, I asked if I could use it. They let me and I raced that around a few times. Meanwhile, the crew got to unloading a ton of rebar. 2 tons of rebar, actually. Back in the hole again, and work got started on leveling the footings with that rotary laser level and the sensor on the measuring rod. They set the rod on top of the footing and the sensor beeps, depending on if it's higher or lower than the laser. Fast beeping means the footing's too high and needs to be lowered until they get that steady tone, and slow beeping means it's too low and needs to be raised until they get a steady tone. Either way, they screw the forms into the stakes at the correct height and they move on to the next section. Very good. So while they continued around leveling out the rest of the forms, I started working on distributing the rebar chairs. Use a little piece of metal that can help keep the rebar at the right position in the concrete and out of the sand. Finally, we got to actually placing the rebar. They did all the bending freehand. Number 4 rebar is pretty easy to bend, but it's not easy to curve into that right shape, especially once you mess it up. I tried a few curves and decided I was hurting more than helping, so I stuck to the straight piece with simple bends. I used a rebar tie gun to tie the rebar to each other and to the rebar chairs. I'm sure it helped, but it also looked like it messed up fairly often and used a lot of wire. Batteries kept dying. That's pretty typical. Every now and then it would just not work. Didn't quite line it up right or something. But you can see it does make short work of these ties when it does work. See the mat of rebar every 9 inches for those piers. Oh, gotta go help Odilio. The last step was just adding some 4-inch bleeder hose. Basically, we'll pour the concrete around these and it'll leave us a hole through the footing that we can work with later for drainage or other things. Then I went around and checked all the connections and fiddled with everything so that it looked good. Now we need to wait a couple days for the inspector to come out and check the work, and then we can pour the concrete. Bonus footage of cliff swallows flying out of those little nest holes in the walls. Let's try it again. One more time, slow-mo.